Today's grand jury decision, striking a blow to my confidence in the U.S. court system, was the decision for the murderers of Eric Garner to not face a trial. By my count, there were 6 officers who took him down by his neck like he was an animal. He suffered an asthma attack and he died on film. The man who recorded it, from what I understand, he is facing charges. It's interesting how perspective changes things. Some people watch that video and they see a very large and very scary black man who's resisting arrest. I see a man who was fighting for his life, pleading that he couldn't breathe. Why wasn't any type of resuscitation applied? I don't know. Would this outcome have been the same if he would have been a very large white man? I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. I just know what I saw, which is what everyone else saw. Kinda. Perspective. Yeah. Michael Brown was a sinner or a saint, depending upon who you ask. That's the dichotomy of being a person. We're all flawed. But what I find interesting is how a biased media can shape that perspective. A media that had released that Michael Brown had strong-armed robbed a convenience store just minutes before his death, and that he had a juvenile record. But with just a quick search of Snopes, this is what I found. I'm going to turn to my laptop and read it so that I don't misspeak, okay? Cynthia Harcourt, a lawyer for the juvenile officer of St. Louis County Family Court, said after the hearing that she could neither confirm nor deny the existence of a juvenile record for Mr. Brown. Missouri state law prohibits the records of most juvenile court proceedings from being released to the public. But she said Mr. Brown had no juvenile cases involving serious felony charges or convictions, including murder, robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon. Those felony records would not be required to be confidential and would have been released, but none exist for Mr. Brown, Ms. Harcourt said. And there were also news reports that Michael Brown had been charged previously. But as you go and look a little further here, it looks as though there was another person named Michael Brown. In State versus Michael R. Brown, he is someone who lives in a totally different city in Missouri and was born in a different year. Because Michael Brown is probably an incredibly common name. So I don't know if that was sloppy journalism or someone using journalism to create a certain perspective. But that damage has been done. Even though the convenience store owner said, yes, my store was robbed, but no, it wasn't by him. Perspectives had already been shaped. Michael Brown is now a thug. And side note, when did thug become synonymous with black man in the United States? A thug could be any person of any creed, origin, nationality, gender, but yet somehow Here, thug is when they're talking about a black man. But I digress. Eric Garner, he sold cigarettes, he had a record, he should have known the drill, right? He was a thug. He deserved what he got. Perspective. He shouldn't have raised his voice with the police. Because we are not allowed to talk back. Both unarmed, both black men, both murdered by police, and both considered that they deserved it, depending on who you ask. Then there's 12-year-old Tamir Rice, running around with a toy gun, pointing at people, acting silly. He too was shot, killed by a police officer. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you haven't heard about this one. This just happened within the last couple of weeks. This hasn't gone to a grand jury yet. However, what was introduced today in the media was that this police officer had a history of being unstable with firearms, but was still hired on by Chicago Police Department. I don't even know how that works, but I'm not a police officer and I'm not involved in that world. 12 years old. Yet I still read in the comic section, and I know it's like the noob's guide to the internet. Do not read the comment section. It will screw your whole day, but I must be a masochist because I can't help myself. But I read in these comment sections that he too is a thug, that he knew better and he deserved to die. He's 12 years old. Perspective. We've all heard about the studies that show that black youth are viewed as being older and much more threatening than their white peers at a much younger age. And is that what's happening here? Is that why this boy who hadn't even had a chance to become a teenager is being judged so harshly? I don't know. It's a perspective that I don't share. But this is where that controversial hashtag Black Lives Matter come into play for me. Because I, as a black woman, the more I see people disparaging these victims, who are agreeing that there does not need to be a trial, who are blaming a 12-year-old boy for having a toy gun, I begin to wonder, do Black Lives Matter in the American society? Where do we stack on this sliding scale that it just feels like we're sliding down? It doesn't seem like we matter at all. And this tagline wasn't created as some type of arrogant proclamation that black lives and black people are so much more important than anybody else. It was a cry that we matter too. Also, just as much as, not more, and we deserve justice. But there's an argument against Black Lives Matter, saying that how can black people possibly say that Black Lives Matter when there's so many black people who kill black people? Cool. Okay. Can we talk about all the white people who murder white people and so on and so forth? Because crimes are committed more against people of the same nationality and race. Here's a fun fact. Black men in the United States are more likely to be prosecuted for crimes than their white counterparts, and they're also more likely to serve longer jail time. So probably, I'm not going to say definitely, but more likely than not, there was some type of justice served in many of these cases. But in the cases of these black versus black crimes that people like to bring into the conversation, it's generally not someone in a position of power taking someone's life and not being held accountable in a court of law, not having to go through those proper judicial steps, not seeing a courtroom. That is why people are angry and they're taking to the streets and they're protesting with their arms up or their bodies laying prone on the ground, because there has been a miscarriage in justice. Justice felt like she was very blind, and it did not feel like it was served. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder announced today that the Department of Justice will be taking a closer look at the deaths of Michael Brown and Eric Garner to see if a miscarriage of justice did occur. And I look upon this with an incredibly cautious optimism, because it feels like this justice system was not created equal. But that, too, is perspective. And I'm hoping that my perspective is wrong. I encourage you to talk about this in the comments. Say how you feel, but please do it in a respectful manner. I'm not going to tolerate racism and mudslinging and personal attacks. I don't have time for that. I just wanted to talk to you guys about some real stuff other than writing. Though I love writing, but sometimes you have to talk about the real. I hope this made sense, and I feel just as frustrated and confused as anyone else does. And I don't have all the answers. I just know that being silent definitely isn't one of them. So, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.